Get ready for the Main Event Podcast. The guys are about to go live. Tuesday morning this time, about noon o'clock here on Tuesday, of course, of the Main Event Podcast. I'm Stephen McCollum, as always, coming at you live on Facebook and on Twitter. Get those posted and retweeted out on the personal pages. At the Main Event Pod is where it goes up, of course, on Facebook and Twitter. Notify you that it's up, and then I also retweet it out on my personal page at SMAC500. So, as always, and then I'll get it out on the podcast systems a couple hours after the show when everything gets downloaded, all that fun stuff, right? So, a lot of things going on in the world. Of course, yesterday, I didn't realize, I know a lot of people don't get Martin Luther King Day off, and with what I do outside of the radio and podcast stuff is same thing that happened last time, of course. I have to fix it again. Good thing I show. Wow. What a way to start the show, right? So let me make sure the sound's all up and everything's running fine here, since I'm a jackass and, didn't realize that I had the cord all tied up. So let me just check this out. All right, we're good to go again. We're back up again. Take two, as they say. So, things don't always go right in the world, and this is the second show in a row now where I have pulled down the sound system. Always a good time. But it happens, right? So I didn't get yesterday because not everybody has Martin Luther King Day off. I know kids do. I know... I know a lot of federal people, teachers do, obviously, things like that. However, I didn't realize it was a holiday, kids running around, a bunch of other stuff going on, and I was woefully prepared to do a show yesterday. And so in order, because I know y'all like the way I do it, the way that I come at you, I didn't want to half-ass it, basically, is what to say. So I took my time, got everything ready. Actually upgraded a few things here in the office. So, as long as I stop pulling the sound system down, we will be good to go. Actually upgraded a few things. All right, just checking the sound one last time here, because I just don't trust myself anymore. Of course, being Tuesday here, we got today's show. Wednesday night, 1580 radio show is going to go this week. They've got everything they needed to do out of the way, so I can go on the air. And of course, Friday show will be back here as well. But let's get into it. A lot of talk to go into. And we always start the show with the usual, right? We always start the show off with NFL's kind of going down a little bit. Obviously, this weekend's championship weekend, only 2 games, and then the Super Bowl left. So we have 3 football games left in our lives. I know, guys, getting depressing a little bit, but we'll get into that like we always do. Coming up here in the second half of the show and just dominate NFL talk. So let's get into it. NHL is officially up and going. You guys all know that I'm a big NHL fan. It's too early in the season, though, to really track anything, follow anything. Of course, we've already seen a first hat trick on the year. We talked about that. Some quick news on this, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Coyotes. They just played their third game last night of the season, game 1 of 4 against the Knights. But first, the news coming out today is the Hurricanes and the Predators game is officially postponed tonight. And, it was done, quote, out of an abundance of caution to ensure the health and safety of players, coaches, and game day personnel, and in consultation with medical experts. Basically COVID, right? They always got to do that, right? They're going to reschedule the game, of course. And you don't hear a lot of cancellations and everything. Well, intern messaged in because I get into this here saying the volume is low, but when I do this, intern messaged in because I get into this here saying that it sounds good when I check it in my ears here, not from the feed, but from actual Facebook. It sounds fine on my end. So that's from the Facebook feed that you can hear. So this is the Facebook feed here. So that's from the Facebook feed that you can hear. So this is. It sounds perfectly loud in my ear. So I don't know. We'll have to check it out as we go. Of course, she posted there instead of texting me. So we have to, do production stuff on the air. But it is the 5th NHL game postponed this season, right? You didn't hear. I knew the Stars had their first 4 games postponed and rescheduled due to the COVID-19 issues. Against the Panthers on Thursday and Friday. And against Tampa Bay Lightning on Sunday and Tuesday, now May 10th. So, Dallas Stars haven't even played yet. Their first 4 games were canceled and rescheduled. And then now the Carolina and Nashville Predators are up. So, that's what we're dealing with in the NHL. It's only been one team other than the Stars that's had this issue, and we'll go from there. I don't know what else to say. Hopefully they can not have an issue with COVID like the NBA has had to a certain extent, and other sports as well. And they can kind of keep this under control as they go through this season here. Other quick little news here, is Ovechkin, old man Ovechkin. God, I remember when he came in the league so many years ago on there. He is, tonight looking to move up the NHL goals list for the Capitals. He's moving up there. I don't know how many games he's got left that we're going to be with him. But, the Capitals play the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. He scored his 707th goal against the Penguins on Sunday, one behind Mike Gardner for 7th in NHL history. And then once he gets past Gardner, there's 2 quick players that he should be able to pass pretty quickly. Phil Esposito with 717 and Marcel Dion, I don't know that name, 731. So just if he can match the .71 goals per game average from last season, for the remaining 53 games this season, it would give him 38 goals, moving him past Brett Hull for 4th. That's 741. So just something that Ovechkin's going towards this year for the Capitals. The Capitals team's really good this year. Something to watch, absolutely, as we go on in the season. But then also, let's just talk local here. Of course, the Coyotes played 3 games now. They had 2 games against the Sharks. They lost the first game in a shootout, so they picked up 1 point. Then game 2 happened, and they went out there and they beat the Sharks in that game on, what night was that? Saturday night? Saturday night. See, it's funny how the days are running together. They're playing every other day. But it's the same team. So now It's getting difficult to remember where they played last, right? So they are 1-1 points wise. They have 3 points on the season, so they lost in overtime for 1 point. They beat the Sharks for 2 points, and last night they lost, unfortunately, to the Golden Knights. And they were ahead 2-0 against the Knights at the end of the second period. And then the Knights do what they always do, right? They're a really good team. Are the Coyotes anywhere near the level of the Knights? Nope. Not even close. And it showed last night. The Knights kind of just woke up in the third period, dominated that, lost 4-2. Beat the Coyotes 4-2. It was the first game for the Coyotes on the road. Of course, they play again tomorrow night. Oh, and Miguel, I'm sorry. I just saw your Facebook thing here also. The first game for the Coyotes on the road. Saying that I'm very low also. So, Miguel, let me know if that's any better for you on that Facebook deal there. So I got it as loud as I can have it, and it sounds good on my end in my ears. So weird that happened on there. So let me know how I sound, man. I've changed nothing other than turning me up. So let me check it again here real quick. Weird that happened on there. All right. Yeah, that was from the actual Facebook feed in the system. Let me check it on my phone here just to make sure that I'm not going crazy. Maybe it's me talking today. I don't know. Let's see here. Okay, Mikhail says it is better. And it sounds good, like I said, on my phone. Also, then we have many ways to check everything here. So I appreciate you letting me know, Mikhail. And, of course, intern who let me know also on there. So if I can stop knocking down the system, that's probably what I'm doing wrong, right? As I'm knocking down the sound thing and it's adjusting stuff, whatever. So Oliver Ekman-Larsson, of course, has been out in that second game this year against the Sharks. He has a lower body injury in the second game. He's officially week to week for his return. I mean, he's a veteran in there. The Coyotes could use him definitely for some veteran leadership as we go. Look, it's too early in the season to really pick apart this. I think this Coyotes team, I was there on Thursday night, as many as you know. I think this Coyotes team is average. Maybe a little bit better than average. Maybe. The goaltenders are going to win them some games that they shouldn't normally win. Yeah, sure, right? It's going to happen. But they're not anywhere near the Golden Knights level. They're not anywhere near the Colorado Avalanche level. So that's why these 4 games are kind of a weird thing. I want to see them play 6 to 10 games, but I want to see them play 6 to 10 games not against one of the best teams in their division. Tyler Pitnick, of course, last night against the Knights scored his first goal as a Coyote. And Nick Schmaltz scored his first goal of the season. They gave up those 4 unanswered goals to the Knights last night. Right? I mean, they were weird goals. A couple of the goals the Knights scored were off the back, weird bounces for the Knights. But all in all, I mean, everybody thought of listening to Rick Tocchet's comments after the game. He said, quote, "I thought we played a good game. There were some presses there that Vegas did, and we didn't handle that well, a couple of things. But I thought for the most part, that's a heavy team over there. We can learn from that. We've got to start slinging pucks on the net and getting those types of goals." That's one thing I noticed in the first 2 games. And look, I fell asleep last night in the second period. I'm not going to lie to you. I was laying down watching it in my bed, and I just fell asleep. And they're up 2-0. And one thing I noticed with this team so far this season is they don't put the ball on the net, and their center isn't in front of the goaltender, kind of pushing him out there. It's something they need to change. Of course, Darcy Kemper got the start again last night, and goalie Ronta got game 2 start, but he stopped 24 of 27 shots he faced. But when you can't score for 30 minutes between the second goal that you scored and the rest of the game, you're not going to win too many of those games. especially with a team like Vegas who can wake up and do some things. Of course, OEL, Ekman Larsson's expected to miss, like I said, week to week, but he's expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Kyle Capobianco, if I said his name correctly. I tried to practice these names, but, He, of course, joined the lineup in place of Ekman Larsson. That's his first NHL game since February of last year. So, right off the bat in the first part of the game, I noticed this in the San Jose game I was at last Thursday, was when they get one-on-ones with a goalie, for instance, they struggle. They can't put the ball in the net. They get a bad shot off them. And it happened last night, too. The early part of the game, they got a breakaway on the Vegas goalkeeper, and Lerner just stopped it. It was nothing for him. Because later on, turnovers gave the Golden Knights shorthanded breakaways in the second period. I mean, and Kemper did what he needs to do. He managed to stop or alter the shots. I do like how the Coyotes are scoring on power plays, though, when they get them. That was the second goal. That's the one where Schmaltz scored on that power play. So it's good. You get it. You go. The other team goes a man down. You got to score. So, I'm sorry. Pitlick got early on. He got the shorthanded goal. Took it down there by himself, and then he became the 7th player in Coyotes history to have his first goal with a team be shorthanded. So you get a man down, you got to put pressure on him. You got to pressure him, make him sweat a little bit. Even if you don't get the puck in the net, you got to at least put pressure on him to get there. And this last night they were able to score one time. At the end, it didn't matter. One thing also about this team, Coyotes team, I've seen early on, like I said, it's early, it's 3 games in, is they don't compete all 3 quarters. The game I went to on Thursday night, they didn't show up the first quarter. And then they showed up the second and third period. I'd say quarter period. Second game they came out, dominated the first period. Kind of went back a little bit in the second, and then won the third. Last night, won the first 2 periods, didn't come out and win the third period. And even Tocchet said it. He said he needs this team to compete for 60 full minutes in games, especially against a high-caliber team like Vegas. He says, quote, "We had them on the ropes, 2-0. They didn't have anything. And then they had a couple of lucky goals, and I like our response at the end. We had a couple of chances at the end to bury them, but missing the net. We've got to come back strong," unquote. Of course, with this weird schedule, the Coyotes face the Golden Knights again in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. So, of course, I'll be on the air 6 to 8. And then we get to watch some Coyotes hockey. You listen to it on the way home. And then get home and watch the remaining of the game while I unwind from the radio show on Wednesday night. I love how it's always bothers me, right? Because I'm not a uniform snob. Whatever. Wear whatever. It doesn't really bother me. I'm not a big fan of the Kachina jerseys. And they wore those on Thursday night when I was there. It doesn't bother me that they wear them. I'm just not a big fan of them. They always announce what the team's schedule or team's uniform. Arizona is scheduled to wear the white Coyote head uniforms as the team did on Monday. I actually know a guy that picks and wins and losses and stuff based off their uniforms, so it makes me laugh. So, like I said, it's early in the season. Let's get a few games under our belt to decide what this Coyotes team is. And even not only a few games, I was really originally going to say 6 to 8 games, but we're going to have to extend that out to 10, 11 games because 4 of these games are against one of the perennial teams in this division. And I don't know if we're going to get a good know of what the Coyotes are in these 4 games because of who they're playing. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Vegas, of course, is undefeated. They're 3-0, 6 points in our division. They beat the Anaheim Ducks twice, and of course now the Coyotes once. They have a +6 goal differential. Which, of course, Anaheim's not going to be the best team in the conference by any stretch. So right now, just, early on, we'll just look at the standings. Vegas is 1, 3-0, 6 points. St. Louis is 2-1. We have 4 points. Minnesota's 2-1 with 4 points. Coyotes in that 4th spot right now with 3 points. Anaheim's tied with them at 3 points. Colorado's only played 2 games. They're 1-1. The Kings are 0-2. 2 overtime games for them with 2 points. And then San Jose is in last place. Womp, womp. 1-2 with 2 points. So, I mean, like I said, Colorado's not going to stay outside the 4th spot for very long. And I said it in my preview at the beginning of the season when I said that I picked the Minnesota Wild to be that 4th playoff team in this division. I think it's going to come down to the Wild, Arizona, and San Jose all competing for that 4th spot. See what happens. I mean, you got to play a complete game to get into that 4th spot. You have to play well for most of this season. Very little letdowns. So let's see what happens. But I think this is going to come down and be very competitive with Minnesota and Arizona to get that 4th spot in this division. Let's see what happens as we go through it. So, it's not exactly a lot of games tonight, too, in the NHL, which is really exciting. It's, hockey every night for the next 100 and whatever days. It's going to be fantastic for those of us that enjoy that sport. But one thing is we still haven't heard, right, if baseball's starting on time or not. Still waiting for that. And I was trying to look up this morning if there's any updates on that. I haven't really seen anything anywhere. No comments on it. When did that story come out? Like 3 weeks ago or so? Where everybody was saying, oh, baseball, blah, blah, blah. Padres don't care, though. Padres are making more moves. Padres are going to contend with these Dodgers, and they're going after the pitching side of it. San Diego Padres acquire Pittsburgh Pirates right-hander Joe Musgrove in a 3-team deal. Of course, made official this morning. Trying to think what day it is, right? So it's going to include the obviously the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Mets. So Musgrove is the 3rd starting pitcher acquired via trade by the Padres this offseason. Of course, they picked up Blake Snell and Yu Darvish in separate blockbuster trades last month. And of course, that was with the Rays and the Cubs, respectively, between the two. Musgrove was 1-5 with a 3.86 ERA and 8 starts with the Pirates. The Pirates are the Pirates. They're not good. You can't hold his record to him. He was Pittsburgh's opening day starter last year. He's set to make $4.45 million in 2021 because he just agreed with the Pirates to a contract on Friday to avoid arbitration. He'll be a free agent after this year. He's 29-38 with 4.33 ERA in 108 appearances in 5 major league seasons, including 83 starts. For those of you that remember, he did win a World Series ring with the Astros in 2017 because he was part of that trade for Garrett Cole. Went to the Yankees. I'm sorry, Garrett Cole went to the Astros from the Pirates. Sorry. Garrett Cole, of course, he was a free agent and signed with the Yankees. Musgrove did win. He was the winning pitcher in Game 5 of that 2017 World Series against the Dodgers. So the Padres just keep getting better. This is going to be an exciting baseball year, not for us D-back fans, but to watch the Dodgers and the Padres battle out this division, right? But it's just amazing to me how a small, quote unquote, small market team like the Padres are able to make moves like this, and the Diamondbacks don't. It's actually kind of infuriating. There's no reason the Diamondbacks can't be making these moves also. Of course, the Padres are making these moves because their bullpen is a mess. Our prospects, their minor league system is a mess. So you can't have a lot of trade. That's how the Padres are doing it. They're getting rid of a lot of prospects, young prospects, to make these moves. Of course, in other baseball news, that does kind of indirectly affect the Diamondbacks because he was just here. Mets' new GM, Jared Porter, of course, was just made the Mets GM in December. He came from the Diamondbacks. He was the senior VP and assistant GM since 2017 for the Diamondbacks. Was relieved of his duties. That's just a nice way of saying he was fired. Hey guys, what do I keep saying? Those of you that follow this podcast with other hosts, namely Jason Carter, what's my thing? Don't be a-holes to women, man. Just don't do it. Of course, yesterday, ESPN reported that he sent explicit, unsolicited texts and images to a female reporter in 2016 while working for the Chicago Cubs in their front office. Basically, he was sending D-pics repeatedly. And I won't give you the details. But the woman, the reporter, was a foreign correspondent who had moved to the United States to cover Major League Baseball. She said at one point she ignored more than 60 messages from Porter before he sent the final lewd photo. Like it always does, it started casually. He was in charge of the director of professional scouting. Then he starts complimenting her appearance, inviting her to meet him in various cities, and asking why she was ignoring him. And the text shows she had stopped responding to Porter after he sent a photo of pants featuring a bulge in the groin area. Yeah, that's always good. Guys, not good. We all have that one friend that on Snapchat like to send half-naked pictures of himself out there to random women. Stuff like that, Guys, they don't like them. I know you think they do. They're lying to you when they say they do. They don't like them. Stop it. So she stopped responding to him. He kept sending messages. Then he acknowledged she did it. And then the Mets fired him. Steve Cohen, the Mets' new owner, tweeted Tuesday that the Mets, quote, have terminated Jared Porter this morning, unquote. Probably should do better phrasing because that tells me he killed him. Tweet better, owner Steve Cohen. Because as uncool as those texts were and the way he treated her, probably shouldn't die because of it. So there's no reason the Mets need to terminate him. So phrasing is important in this situation. Again, he tweeted out, quote, Mets have terminated Jared Porter this morning. Again, he got fired. He wasn't killed. Less than 12 hours after ESPN, Mina Kimes and Jeff Passan reported that Porter sent graphic uninvited text messages and images to the reporter. Cohen goes on to say, in my initial press conference, I spoke about the importance of integrity, and I meant it. There should be zero tolerance for this type of behavior, unquote. Even Sandy Alderson did it too, who's the Mets president, and he hired Porter last month, confirmed the firing in a statement, and he said, quote, the New York Mets have terminated general manager Jared Porter, effective immediately, unquote. I think killing the guy's a little harsh, personally. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I mean, killing him for it? Probably would have just fired him. But whatever. Hey, it's New York, right? I mean, it goes back to the age-old question, right? A lot of people are saying that, well, it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. He's being punished today for something that happened in 2016. That's more of my point. You know how you don't get fired for doing that? You just don't do it. And Mikhail's in on the joke. Says, remember, Steven, it's New York. People have been terminated for less. Geez. It's just like work on your phrasing here, guys. When you're firing somebody, you can say the word "fired." It's probably better in that situation. Yeah, an intern says, "quote terminated his employment." Unquote. Probably would have been more accurate. I know, but obviously the Mets are serious about business this year because they flat out terminated him. The owner, the president, they were like, terminate him. Let's go. You'll not do this to me. So anyway, guys, I've said it before 100 times with other hosts. Stop being a-holes to women, and you get to keep your job. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Let's get into, I'm trying to find stories on what's going on with the NBA or with the Major League Baseball season, and I'm still waiting for updates on that. Like, nobody knows. Pitchers and catchers report in a month. Is this one of those things where it's quiet now because they're negotiating? Hopefully. If not, that means that in 3 weeks, when they all start getting ready to report, is when it's going to break out and it's going to be delayed, all that fun stuff. Like baseball generally does. Let's see what we're going to deal with. In NBA news, of course, we got to talk about this drama. On Friday's show, I went into and made fun of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and the drama that they all did. So now he's in Brooklyn. Harden's now in Brooklyn. It's amazing. It is amazing how in Houston he was 400 pounds overweight. I know I'm exaggerating there, but he was fat. Wasn't shooting the ball well. Wasn't passing the ball at all. Pretty much sucked. He shows up in the Nets and his jersey fits him properly. He doesn't look like a fat oaf. And he's learning how to play basketball again. God, it's amazing. It's amazing how, he says he didn't take in Houston. He said the team just wasn't good enough. I played all those audio clips last week on Friday. Oh my God, it's amazing. He goes through the COVID protocols after the trade, plays his first game Saturday night. All of a sudden, the lard ass is playing football again. First game Saturday night ends up being the first NBA player to record a 30-point triple-double in his debut with the team. 32 points, 14 assists, 12 rebounds, all against the Magic. Dominating play. Him and Kevin Durant look really well together. He tweeted out, I tweeted out on my Twitter thing, he tweeted out that he said, I didn't disrespect anybody in Houston. So I responded to it and said, I don't think he knows what the word disrespect means. This is just, James Harden is just a joke at this point. He's made himself out to be a joke. So then Sunday, was the second game with the Nets. And they played Milwaukee. And Durant and Harden combined for 64 points. Kevin Durant had 30 points, which math majors out there will tell you Harden had 34 points in the game. Oh, it's amazing. He didn't disrespect Houston. He tried everything he could do, guys. He said it. The team's just not good enough. And he goes to the Nets and all of a sudden can play again. It's amazing how that happens. It's amazing how a new team means Harden can now play basketball again and also put down the donuts. It's amazing. Here's the weird thing, right? Nets and Harden and KD are playing really well together. I saw an article this morning. I'm not even going to reference because it's just a joke of an article. But he said that maturity is why him and KD are playing so well together, because they played together obviously in Oklahoma City, and maturity is why. James Harden calling himself mature is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. This is the guy that just quit on Houston, says he didn't disrespect anybody there, said the team wasn't good enough, pretty much ate himself to the point where they couldn't find a jersey big enough for him because he was a giant oof. And now he's saying maturity is why he's playing so well. These things just write themselves. These guys are such idiots. Love it. Here's the interesting thing, though. Kyrie Irving was eligible to come back and play on Saturday night after being gone from the team and then the COVID stuff. Kyrie's still not back with the team. So the Nets are playing really well right now with KD and Harden. When Kyrie comes back, it's going to be interesting to see how they mesh. Or if they get all messed up and they start fighting. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. Of course, in local news, well, I'm going to continue to watch this story. This is going to be amazing. This Nets drama is going to be fantastic all season long. Of course, in local news, Suns were off for a few days. Bunch of games canceled. We talked about it on Friday because of COVID outbreak after they played Washington and lost to Washington, the Wizards. They played Memphis yesterday in a rare daytime game, no less. I think it started at 3 p.m. Phoenix time. They lost 108-104 to the Grizzlies. I don't understand why Monty Williams did this, but he started Cam Johnson. And Jay Crowder moved to the bench. The bench isn't the problem. It's the starters. But one thing good did come out of the game. And hopefully he can keep it up. Miguel, I'm waiting for that comment from people. When I tweeted that out, I was waiting for U of A fans to come out at me about that. Miguel says, the obvious joke, that is funny. I was waiting for somebody to do it. Nobody has. He says, you're probably right. Didn't he go to ASU? If so, he probably doesn't know what it means. Yeah, I know. He doesn't know what disrespect means. I know you're kidding. Whatever. We don't claim him at ASU anymore. He's such a fat, lard, whiny baby. I don't think we claim him at ASU anymore, do we? I'll have to consult the more into ASU people than than me. I'll get back to everybody on that. Let me consult the ASU crazies, lunatics. What are they called? The people into it a lot more than I am. But one thing did come out of the Suns game. DeAndre Ayton actually played aggressive yesterday, folks. The complaint on him is that he doesn't dunk the ball when he gets underneath there. Doesn't play good, doesn't dominate on the defensive end. Holy cow, who was this guy? He had 5 dunks yesterday. 5 dunks. 5. It's amazing. He had 7 total in the first 11 games. 5 dunks. I mean, you got to see this continue. If you can dominate down there like that. Now, granted, he was going up, against a rookie guy guarding him. But you got to take advantage of that stuff. But here's the question on the Suns that I have so far as we've gotten into, 12 games into the season now. I'm confused on how many games they've played because of all the postponements and everything. But Phoenix's last 3 losses have been an overtime defeat to the Detroit Pistons, a blowout at the hands of the Washington Wizards, and a very, very bad team in the Memphis Grizzlies. My point in this is the Suns play down to their competition. Seems to be a trending thing. The Cardinals did it all season long. Now the Suns are doing it. That needs to stop. You need to beat these bad teams. I mean, this game is winnable. Ayton even had the most post touches he's had in a game so far this season. Oh, I'm sorry. Xavier Tillman was a second-round pick. I thought he was their first-round pick. But even then, he's a young guy. You got to take advantage of it. Not only did he have dunks, though, he went up with force, and that's what was exciting to see. That's what we've all been waiting for. So he's obviously learning things. He's not going to be able to do it consistently because he's not new at it. He's not going to do that. We're going to see some of the old Ayton again, right, coming up here. But on those types of games where he can dominate like that, he needs to dominate. That's what we've been waiting for. Chris Paul is obviously, working with him because he's a disher. He likes to dish the ball around. He's giving him some good alley-oop dunks and things with force. But Monty Williams, the head coach, talks about this loss here.
We just lost a tough game. And I thought for the most part, they played with a bit more burst than we did. The cuts to the basket, the offensive rebounds, even in the first half, they only had 4, but they seemed pretty timely. We just haven't figured out how to play our style consistently. We see it in spurts, but we haven't seen it for a long period of time. When we do it, we look pretty good. We just didn't do it tonight.
I mean, talking about the inconsistency that we're talking about with this Suns team right now. And then Chris Paul, the leader of the team, the guy that comes in here and expects things to be a certain way, talked about the losing of these close games.
Man, we didn't get stops. We didn't execute. I had 6 turnovers. This ain't it. This ain't it. We got to be better. Most of all, I got to be better. We shouldn't be losing, this many close games like this.
Yeah, so, I mean, he says what we're all thinking as fans. So let's see him get out of it. Does anybody have any doubt that Chris Paul is going to get him through this and into a different spot? I don't. I think he's going to do it. Just a matter of how long it's going to be. So we'll keep our eye, of course, on the NBA season as we go through. I know earlier they had some of the polls had the Suns as ranked number 2 team in the, power polls in the whole NBA. Of course, I'm sure they've fallen. I haven't checked that in a while because they've had 3 bad losses now. They're 7-5 on the season. They're in 4th place in the Western Conference. Lakers, Clippers. Lakers are 11-4. Clippers are 10-4. Jazz are 9-4. Suns are 7-5. They're in the 4th spot. The Spurs are still up there at 8-6. Portland's there at 8-6, and they just lost C.J. McCollum for a few weeks here with a fractured foot, I think, foot. Golden State Warriors beat the Lakers last night in spectacular fashion, if you didn't see that. They're 7-6, and the Memphis Grizzlies, who just beat the Suns, are 7-6. But I mean, the Mavericks are 6-7. The Nuggets are 6-7. The Nuggets are digging themselves out of that hole when they started the season. The Nuggets are going to get into that playoffs. I think we've all figured they're going to get there as they continue through this. So they're not in the woods, but the Suns are in that top 4 spot still, even though they did miss a few games. They played 12 games. Everybody else has played, 14 to 15? I think they missed 3 games, if I remember correctly. But you can't be losing to, Memphis Grizzlies is what it is. Morant had a good game, but they're not a top-tier team. If they make the playoffs, they'll be an 8 seed, right? But you can't lose to the Detroit Pistons, who are 3-10 on the year. And you can't lose to the Washington Wizards like they did. They're 3-8 on the year. You've got to beat those teams. And Mikkel on the Facebook Live feed says, my concern is the foul shooting. Earlier in the season, they were shooting over 90%. Last night was 53%. Missed 7, lost by 4. That was a problem last season also. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I haven't been following the foul shooting as much early on in this season because this team's trying to gel. But you're right. Those are free points. You got to be able to make those, 90%. But where they're lacking is they go through those weird spurts in a game. They just don't do anything. Yeah, they lost the 4 points. So that's something we'll pay attention to, Mikel. I'll watch that free throw. I saw that last night. I didn't realize earlier in the season they were shooting 90%. So I'm going to start watching that. Kind of like I do with the Cardinals, where I watch some of these obscure facts to see where we are on them. But I mean, this team early on also was winning. Like Booker would have a bad game. He scored, 8 points in one game, and they still won it. Chris Paul had a bad game, and they won it. Yesterday, just everybody had a bad game except for Ayton for the most part. And, when everybody falls apart, it's a whole nother situation. But you can't be losing to the Wizards and the Pistons. They have 3 wins, and then one of their wins is against you. So, yeah, we'll watch that foul shooting. That's a good point, Mikel. I like that. I like that a lot. So, I don't know when these games are going to get made up that the Suns had canceled at all. I don't know when they're going to get made up because there was a Golden State game in there. I'm going to quickly look up here the Suns schedule and see if they've done. I don't think they have. I mean, the Suns have the Rockets tomorrow. You have to win that game. The Rockets aren't good. They're 3-8, I think. Don't lose that game. Then they got the Nuggets on Friday. Nuggets have some talent, and they're expected to be up there. They're 6-7 on the year. It's kind of like the Grizzlies, but they have talent. You should win that game, but it's really no shame if you lose it. But you got 2 against the Nuggets. You got to come out of that game with at least 1-2 wins. Then you got the Thunder next Wednesday. It's a winnable game. You can't play down to their level. Then you got the Warriors. That's going to be a tough game. Then you got the Mavericks, another team that's struggling right now and bad. You got to beat the struggling teams on your schedule, Suns. You'll drop one every once in a while. It's like if you drop, you can't lose to the teams with 3 wins. You can't lose to Houston because they're so bad. Stuff like that. There's really no shame in losing to the Grizzlies. They should have won that game yesterday. But there's no shame in losing to them because they at least are 6-7 now. Right? They're fighting for that playoff spot. They're going to be there and compete. You should beat them. No shame. But you can't lose to the teams like the Rockets, the Wizards, and the whatever they're called. Pistons. I had to think what Detroit's professional basketball team was on there. So keep an eye on the Suns here going forward because now that they're done with that break, they got these schedules coming up. It's also the other side of it is yesterday. I'm willing to give them a little slack yesterday because they were off for a little bit. We don't know how much they practiced as a team, going through all those protocols. First game back on the court. Maybe they struggled a little bit there. I don't know the answer to that, and we'll know with the next game. That might be why the free throw shooting was so bad yesterday, Mikel, was because they did have all that time off. And you can't get in any groove at that point. I mean, Chris Paul wasn't good yesterday. Booker wasn't good yesterday. Mikal Bridges wasn't great yesterday. So we'll see. We have to give him some time. I don't understand putting Cam Johnson in and putting Jay Crowder to the bench because your bench isn't the problem on this team right now. The bench actually is outscoring everything. When the bench goes in there, they're outscoring the other team. It's interesting. Interesting thing to watch here. But I think everything they were going towards, even with that Pistons and that Wizards bad losses, they were trending in the right direction. And then the shutdown kind of puts us back to where now we have to watch them again and see what they are. It's going to be interesting to watch. So college football news. We don't talk college football this time of year very much after the national championship game. But woo-wee, do we have a doozy of a story. Woo-wee. I'm trying to sound Tennessean, hickish. This is a story. I feel like I'm rapping to Will Smith. This is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. That's probably what Jeremy Pruitt of Tennessee is singing today. Not only that, he's getting fired today. He got fired today. It's January 19th. Coaches don't get fired this time of year. He got fired earlier so you can get guys in there recruiting. But not only did he get fired, he got fired for cause on top of it. Meaning he doesn't get paid the rest of his contract. He has a unbelievable contract. If Tennessee can make this hold up where they don't have to pay them, they are skating away. So it's literally highway robbery. If you did this anywhere else, you'd be going to jail for 10 to 20. Of course, Tennessee, some stuff came out in, December or so about a recruit. A couple of recruits couldn't play in a couple games. Came out, somebody self-reported, long gist of it there. So Tennessee started a ongoing investigation into a recruiting scandal within the football program. Jeremy Pruitt sat down with the lawyers from Bond, Schronek, and King, which was retained by Tennessee to help spearhead the investigation. Also present were members of the NCAA enforcement staff, and Pruitt had his own lawyer present for that interview. That's a lot of high-powered people in an interview with a head coach. That's not a good sign. That alone isn't a good sign. The day before that, inside linebacker coach Brian Niedermeyer was interviewed for 5 hours. Outside linebackers coach Shelton Felton, what a name, was interviewed for 3.5 hours. Yeah. Then the lawyers, I'm just going to call them BSK, Bond, Schronek, and King. They went and updated university chancellor and athletics director. Well, chancellor is Donde Plomin. Apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, ma'am. And athletic director Philip Fulmer on Friday, laying out its finding from an investigation that dates to mid-November. Plomin says, it made us realize we need to make some changes now. That's not good. By Monday afternoon, this was Friday, so Monday afternoon, Pruitt, Niedermeyer, and Felton all fired. For cause. Along with 7 staff members in the football program's recruiting office, player personnel, or support staff. The chancellor said the investigation shows evidence of sweeping and serious rules violations that she called, quote, stunning, unquote, based on the number of people involved and number of incidents. The university expects the actions of Pruitt and the staff members he oversaw will result in multiple NCAA Level 1 and or Level 2 violations. Those are the worst you can get. The chancellor said that on November 13th, her office received a credible verbal allegation of potential NCAA violations occurring within the football program, and Tennessee's general counsel began the investigation. Somebody ratted on him. The investigation is going to continue to be ongoing, even though they fired all the coaches they did on Monday. They're not going into specifics on the potential violations. We will find them out. But they did say, the chancellor said they're significant in number and serious in nature. And she said that they are limited to Pruitt's coaching tenure. It also only pertains to the football program. So, news of the investigation surfaced with a report back with Fox Sports Knoxville on December 19th. That was published during Tennessee's regular season finale against Texas A&M. This timing is interesting to me. So they came out in the final game and made a report. Somebody reported on it. Jeremy Pruitt said after the game, anytime a college football or college athletics, you have a typical compliance stuff, then, unquote. Then when he was asked about the investigation after that Texas A&M loss, he said, quote, that's all I know, unquote. Oh, he knows so much more than that. Like I said, it was mainly came out because running back Eric Gray and reserve quarterback Brian Murr were unavailable to play for the Vols against the Aggies. And ESPN, citing sources, said that their unavailability was connected to the ongoing investigation. After the Texas A&M game, Pruitt was asked 3 times for the reason Gray was not being available, and he declined to say. He just kept saying he was unavailable. So, Tennessee doing dirty things. Here's my thing. I'm laying all this out because the chancellor's actual comments from her own words on why they fired Pruitt.
Based upon what we know, it is clear that Coach Pruitt did not adequately promote an atmosphere of compliance and or monitor the activities of the coaches and the staff who reported to him. Accordingly, today, Athletic Director Fulmer and I agree that we have no choice but to move forward with terminating Coach Pruitt. He was provided his termination letter this afternoon.
Like I said, this is for cause, which means they don't have to pay him. That's huge. Pruitt should have been fired because he was 16 of 19 in the 3 seasons he was there. This team has been awful and is going nowhere. They gave him, and Philip Fulmer gave him, the athletic director, gave him a vote of confidence at the end of this season. That's why he should be getting fired. But they found a loophole to not pay him that outrageous amount of money he needs to get paid. Pruitt, of course, is responding to that comment, those comments I read from the chancellor and everything. Pruitt's lawyer, Michael Lyons, said in a statement to Fox News on Monday night, said, quote, "He is extremely disappointed with the decision, the public announcement of which was made prior to any substantive opportunity to respond before the appropriate decision makers. We believe the decision to be culmination of an orchestrated effort to renege on contextual promises made to Coach Pruitt upon his hiring in 2017 and reiterated less than 5 years ago." Unquote. Lyons indicated that he and Pruitt were ready to defend, quote, "any allegation that he has engaged in any NCAA wrongdoing, as well as examining the university's intent to disparage and destroy Coach Pruitt's reputation in an effort to avoid paying his contractual liquidated damages," unquote. Yeah, and the chancellor even said that it was for cause, and she said that meant, quote, "no buyout," unquote. Pruitt's contract called for a $12.6 million buyout if he was not fired for cause. Yeah, I see your comment, McCall. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. He said, here's the thing, right? If Tennessee better be right in this, because you think that $12.6 million buyout is huge, wait until they lose a lawsuit for disparaging the guy and running him through the mud and then be wrong. So Tennessee has to be right on this. 100% right on firing and what they're saying about him. Because if they're not, that $12.6 million is going to look small compared to what they're going to have to owe him for defamation and all that stuff. Pruitt's lawyer goes on to say, quote, "the timing of the university's actions and decision appear to be preordained and more about financial convenience and expediency than a fair and complete factual determination by the university. Moreover, it seems clear the recent leaks to the press are indicative of an interest to steer the narrative in a way that is desirable to the university to justify a decision likely made weeks ago." What they're saying is they wanted to fire him at the end of the season, but they don't want to pay him the $12.6 million buyout, so they fabricated this story, made it up in order to fire him and not pay him. That's a huge allegation. It's also the allegation you expect from the head coach's side who gets fired for cause because he wants his $12.6 million. The chancellor and Pruitt had an in-person meeting on Monday, Lyons said. According to Lyons, the chancellor confirmed to Pruitt that, quote, "no employment decision has been made," unquote, during that meeting. Of course, later that day, you got the 5-page single-spaced letter of termination later Monday. She lied to him right there, which of course she's going to do, right? In the termination letter, it was obtained by Knox News. They outlined the investigation showed evidence of multiple level 1 and level 2 NCAA recruiting violations under his watch. The letter cited 6 fire for cause provisions violated by Pruitt. It's going to get messy. The university better be right, because like I said, if they're wrong on this and they're running him through the mud like this, like just fire the guy if you don't want him there. He was horrible. What did I say, 16 for 19 in 3 seasons? He's horrible. He should be fired for that record right there. They didn't want to pay him. This is what they're alleging on that side. And Mikhail, you're absolutely right. He says it's tough trying to keep up with the big boys in the SEC. All that and still sucks. Sad. Here's my problem with what, let's say these are all true, even if they're not. But let's say they're all true. If you're going to cheat, be successful at cheating. This team was god-awful. Jeremy Pruitt was god-awful. He went 16 and 19 in 3 seasons. If you're going to cheat, cheat to be successful. He couldn't even cheat successfully, folks. That's what I'm getting at here. Right? I'm going to look up his individual season. I think he had 1 winning season. I'm going to take a look here real quick. Let me see here. I should have looked this up before, but we're going to do production here on the deal. Why not? He was hired in 2018 season. Wasn't very good. Now, remember, he was hired after that big hiring scandal before. So then they blew everybody out. Philip Fulmer became the AD. And then he hired Pruitt. Like this, the Tennessee football program has been a joke for more than these 3 years that Pruitt was there. In October 13, 2018, against number 21 Auburn, Pruitt coached the Volunteers to their first victory over an SEC West team since 2010. Woo! They were 5-7 in 2018, 2-6 in the SEC. His next season, 2019, he started 2-5 to start the season. He went on a 5-game winning streak to end the season at 7-5 and became bowl eligible. That's the season I'm thinking of there. But he did start 2-5. They lost to Georgia State University and BYU at the beginning of that season. It's unacceptable. Then, of course, last season, finished 3-7. Just looking at everything that's come out now, obviously we don't know the violations. If you're willing to say all that stuff, you better be correct for the Chancellor of Tennessee. Because if you're saying all of this stuff and leaving all this ambiguity, you're running the coach through the mud. And if they're not factually accurate, you're setting yourself up for a big lawsuit. On the same side, the head coach has to say all the stuff they're saying on the lawyer side, that I was about to get out of the contract. They already were going to fire him. They just didn't want to pay him, so they found this right. You have to say that stuff and fight it in court. Try to get something. It's going to be messy. This university's got awful. And then Philip Fulmer, on top of it, hasn't been a good AD. Like I said, he went into the AD position under some controversy with all the last before they hired Pruitt, and now he's leaving. You know, he's stepping down. And when they find his replacement, he's going to be there till they find his replacement. But when they find his replacement, then he's going to step down. Like, what a joke! Tennessee's program has been awful. Fulmer will step down as AD after Tennessee completes a search to hire his replacement. And he says he's going to step aside and let the new replacement hire the new football coach. When's that going to be, man? It's January 19th. You have recruiting going on, all these people. What are you going to do? How are you going to hire a big-name head coach in March or April of this year? I will say this, that even if he did do all these allegations and everything, just the way they let him go in this time frame is just weird. I don't. Something weird is going on in Tennessee. So Tennessee will replace Fulmer first and task the next athletic director with leading the search to replace Pruitt. They're going to be hiring a coach in March or April. Good luck with that, Tennessee. Continue to be on the low end of the deal and a laughingstock of the college football world. Because that's what you are at this point. Anyway, that's just an interesting story that I've been following. I'm going to follow it because I love, like when Al Davis fired, Lane Kiffin for cause and that lawsuit. I love this stuff. It's not good to go through it if you're the head coach, but I love this stuff. It's just fascinating what people try to do to screw each other over, regardless of what it is. So, first hour is down. We talked NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA. Awesome college football story out of Tennessee, how they're the laughing stock. Let's get into it, man. Last bit of the show here, NFL football. How exciting was last weekend's games? I've seen a few people say it wasn't exciting. I've seen a few people say that, they enjoyed it. I've seen some people go as far as say it was boring and they didn't like it at all. I don't get that stance. A lot of these games were fun and exciting. No doubt about it, right? So, of course, there's a lot of news coming out after this weekend. Here's the weird thing, man. So, the Ravens released a bunch of players, but the nameless ones that they replaced was RG3. Robert Griffin III was released by the Ravens. Of course, he got injured as the season went on. Mikel says, going back to that real quick, says, man, how crazy people must be to be a Tennessee fan. Don't you know a cray one, Steven? I know a couple. I know 3 or 4 crazy Tennessee fans, and you just can't help but laugh at them. It's a joke of a program. Yeah, they had the championship the year after Peyton left, but they've been a joke of a program for several years. It didn't start with Pruitt. And I don't feel sorry for him either. He says, sorry, Jason, which is Chief. Sorry, Chief. Yeah, I know. Like I can think of 4 Tennessee fans, like diehard Tennessee fans, off the top of my head. But the Ravens released Robert Griffin III off their injured reserve. Released him off the team. You know, he's the backup. He's older. He's been injured, and that one kid came in the game and played pretty well after Lamar got hurt. And then Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's been inactive for a few games now, and they released him as well. Mark Ingram, by the way, guys, is the leading rusher for the Ravens behind Lamar Jackson. The Ravens have kept Mark Ingram on the bench, and it came out before the game on Saturday. They play Saturday. It came out on that game that they kept him on the bench due to salary cap implications. I mean, they didn't want him to hit bonuses and everything. He's done the right thing and said, he put a big post out thanking the organization, everybody. So who knows what's going on there? I just find it weird that a team benched their second biggest rusher, and the quarterback being the first one on that team. Something's weird in Ravensville, man. But whatever. Chargers are hiring Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley as head coach. Came out right after the Rams lost this weekend as well. I mean, look, this guy's like 38 years old. Super young. It was his first season as the Rams defensive coordinator. He's going to be introduced in a video conference call on Thursday. But there's no my only issue with this hire is, yeah, he was good, but he's got no experience. He was not even 4 years. He got this job, head coaching job, not even 4 years after he received his first NFL job. It was his first year as a defensive coordinator. There was nobody with experience the Chargers could have hired. I don't get this at all. Yeah, he is 38. Of course, he's taking over for Anthony Lynn. I don't get it, man. Don't you want head experience as a head coach on your team? Here's the other thing. You have a young quarterback there that needs to grow, and you hired a defensive coordinator to run the team? Chargers just continue to just baffle your mind with their decisions. I mean, the Rams defense was one of the top-ranked defenses in the league all season long. That wasn't because of the coach. They were that way last year, too, before he got there. Before the DC for the Rams last year, he spent the previous 3 seasons, 2 with Chicago and 1 with Denver, coaching outside linebackers. So let me say this as succinctly as possible. What the F are the Chargers doing? They just hired a guy that was coaching outside linebackers for 3 years, became a DC last year with the Rams, and is now a head coach of the Chargers. A young Chargers team with a young quarterback. What? Oh, but guys, don't worry about it, right? He previously worked 11 years as a college assistant. No head coaching experience anywhere. But not only that, right? But he did 11 years as a college assistant, so he got some good experience with some good head coaches, right? Here are the teams he was assistant in. Northern Illinois, the juggernaut Northern Illinois. Oh, let's not forget about Division III St. Thomas squad. Oh, then the vaunted Hutchinson Community College. Oh, he was at Tennessee. We just got done talking about the dumpster fire that is the Volunteers. John Carroll. Oh, my gosh. I would hire this guy tomorrow as my head coach. James Madison. He was also a James freaking Madison. This guy is coming in with an unbelievable coaching tree that he just followed on his way up. Chargers president of football operation, John Spanos, said, quote, "It doesn't matter if you've known Brandon for 5 minutes or 5 years. What quickly becomes apparent is the amount of energy and passion he approaches each and every moment with. The consistency of that enthusiasm is unique, and most importantly, it drives his ability to connect with people. His coaching journey to this particular moment is inspiring," unquote. As I said, though, he did oversee the NFL's top-ranked defense, the Rams finishing number 1 in fewest points and the fewest yards given up. The Chargers, of course, struggled mightily on defense this year, mainly during that 6-week losing streak they had. I don't get what the Chargers are doing, but hey, it's the Chargers. Here's the other thing. Defensive coordinators and head coaches that try to change defensive schematics, it usually fails. It takes 2 to 3 years to get the right players in there. With the Rams, Staley ran a hybrid 3-4. But of course, guys, remember, he had Aaron Donald, one of the top 5 players in the whole league on that front line. The Chargers last year ran a 4-3 with Joey Bosa as the main anchor from his end position. Okay. I don't get it at all. Am I baffling my head? This is more confusing to me than Urban Meyer going to Jacksonville. So he's literally in the same building, just going from the Rams to the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers were just trying to save money on moving fees. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't get it. Lions to hire Saints assistant Dan Campbell as head coach. This has been a rumor for a while now. Of course, a reporter for the Detroit Free Press came out and talked about a quote-unquote slur that Dan Campbell did back in 1996 or something like that. And then it turns out that the reporter had even more worse things to say, like the N-word and whatever. And he's a white guy, the reporter is. Oh, it's just great theater there, where a guy was calling out somebody for past comments, and then he's got past comments sitting there on Twitter. Oh, it's beautiful. I love when that stuff happens. Mikel agrees with me. He says, oh, hell, with the exception of that last sentence, I qualify to be the head coach of the Chargers. That's my point. What are the Chargers doing? They have Justin Herbert, a star quarterback. The problem that the Chargers had last year was they couldn't get over the hump. They needed the experience to get over that losing hump and win some of those close games. They've been winning. They've been in close games. They just couldn't get over that hump. How is this guy going to come in and know how to get over that hump? He's never been a head coach in anything. I just think sometimes these owners are just... I know they got their team from their dad. They inherited it. But even their dad wasn't that smart. But the Lions are hiring a Saints assistant, Dan Campbell, as head coach. I actually like this hire. This is a good... the Lions. I enjoyed this hire. I like this hire by the Lions. The question that you have now, of course, is are they going to keep Matt Stafford there? Are they going to start to rebuild from that point? I like this hire by the Lions. Don't like the Chargers hire. I don't like Jacksonville's hire. But I think the Lions are pretty good here. Set up pretty good for a while. So those are the teams that have come up. Of course, you saw the Texans looking for a head coach. I read a report with all that drama we talked about where, Deshaun Watson's so mad at him for not interviewing Eric Bieniemy. I'm hearing now, and Eric Bieniemy won't take the Texans job under any situations. I actually read an article this weekend from an insider of the Houston Texans that said Eric Bieniemy is the favorite, and they're negotiating contract terms right now. I don't get it. I got to quit reading national media, right? So, of course, this weekend you had 4 games, 2 on Saturday. You had the Rams at Green Bay. The Rams didn't compete in that cold with all the injuries. Aaron Darnold was in and out. Jared Goff just couldn't perform with his thumb the way it is. 32-18. Green Bay beat the Rams. And, of course, the afternoon game, Buffalo 17, Baltimore 3. That was a bad weather game with the wind just going crazy. Well, once Lamar Jackson went out, Baltimore had no chance anyway in that weather. But then when he went out, it was even worse. They just can't throw the football. They're not a throwing team. Lamar Jackson's handicap seems to be throwing the football. That's what everybody rags on him about. But he's also got no receivers. Then on Sunday, of course, Kansas City beat Cleveland 22-17. Man, Cleveland, you had that game. You knocked Patrick Mahomes out of the game, and you couldn't score any points to win it. Unbelievable. Kansas City was held like 3 points in that second half. And then, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Saints in the final game to set up the championship round this weekend as we go through that. So we always talk about, the games, break them down and talk about what we learned, stuff like that. Oop, there's that dang ad again that always plays. I mean, the Rams defense was, like I said, number one in the league. We talked about that. Green Bay's offense didn't care. So the Rams defense with Jalen Ramsey and those cornerbacks, they force teams, the way they're so good is they force teams away from throwing the football and make them run the football. And it didn't matter. Green Bay was like, I'm still going to throw the football. Aaron Rodgers was more than happy to be patient early in this game, playing the dink and dunk style that the Rams want you to play, and then you get impatient. Aaron Rodgers didn't care. He just played it. He made the plays under pressure to win that game. I mean, they even ran the football, too. I mean, Aaron Jones, 14 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Jamal Williams, 12 for 65. A.J. Dillon, 6 for 27. Of course, right after the halftime, Jones ran a 60-yard run up the gut on the first play of a 75-yard TD drive, which is all ground. So the Rams couldn't even stop what they wanted you to do. Green Bay just dominated it. Look, Aaron Donald wasn't 100%. We talked about that. He was in and out of the game with that rib cartilage tear suffered last week. He played 39 of 72 snaps. That's well below what he plays. Then when he was in the game, he just wasn't the game wrecker he was. That cold affected him, obviously. He's the star of that defense on that defensive line. He did nothing. As I said, Jared Goff, 3 weeks removed from his surgery on his throwing hand thumb. Every time he threw the ball in that cold weather, it just floated. So it's no shock that the Green Bay beat the Rams this weekend. Cam Akers had a good game, though. You got to give him props. 18 carries for 90 yards and a score. He looks really good for a rookie. Absolutely does. I'm impressed with him as a rookie. So there's a lot of question for the Rams after this game. Obviously, they just lost their defensive coordinator to head coach the Chargers. But here's the bigger thing. Will Jared Goff return to this team? Sean McVay was asked after the game if Goff will be back.
You were asked it after the game yesterday, right at the end of the Zoom session, is Jared Goff the quarterback? You gave a pretty short answer. I wonder if you could elaborate.
Yeah, just like I said, everything's being evaluated. I'm not ready to make any sort of statements with regards to anybody, starting position or not. We're going to have a level of competition at everything that we do. And so that's where we're at. And I think, being able to take a step back, catch our breath and evaluate everything as we move forward and try to be at our best. That's my answer to the question.
That's not a vote of confidence whatsoever. I mean, you just heard they're going to evaluate everything, and he continues to go. They need competitions in all positions.
I don't think we normally pick over exact word choice, but words can matter. And some people heard you say yesterday that he's the quarterback right now, and some people just heard you say he's the quarterback, right? What was the sense?
Yeah, what I'm evaluating is everything that we do, Kevin. That includes the quarterback position, but that includes everything. And so that's where we're at. And I think it's important for, like I was kind of saying, to be able to take a step back, catch our breath, be able to look at everything that the season encompassed and figure out the best way to create the most competitive situations at all spots, and what we can do to continue to take steps in the right direction. And that's not exclusive to the quarterback, but it's all encompassing to our entire roster.
Yeah. So how many changes are coming for the Rams? I mean, they were a surprise team. I think at the beginning of the season, I thought they were going to finish fourth in this division. I said they were going to maybe win 6 or 7 games, and they surprised everybody with this roster. I mean, I knew the defense would be good. It's just the offense is what you thought would be bad. And with the injuries that tend to go, and they don't seem like they're happy with Jared Goff. It's simple. But then, Hey, Aaron Rodgers, what do you think of this Packers team?
This is such a special honor. I think it's one of the greatest honors of my life, definitely up until this point, to be able to lead this team and to be counted on by my teammates to bring not just my physical play, but my presence, my emotions, my words. And I really strongly believe in speaking things to life. And we've been talking a lot about how a positive wave can be so powerful. And I feel like we have that wave building, and it's been building and building and building. And it's kind of been backboned by so many great people.
So, no, they always say that, right? But so Davante Adams gets together with LA Rams quarterback Jalen Ramsey, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. And they say, quote, these two guys battling at this level, shoot, with that quarterback, woo, and with that defense, this is heavyweight stuff, unquote. So they went through all that, right? And there was some pregame bluster between the two combatants, meaning those two players. During warmups, Adams had to be escorted by an official back to the Packers' side of midfield after a verbal exchange with Ramsey. Then he goes over there and he says, quote, Davante Adams says, quote, I saw him over there with a camera and he was looking at me, so I just went over to holler at him real quick and remind him that I'm not, and it wasn't in a disrespectful way because I respect him as a player. I just said, look, I'm not some of the dudes that you've covered, so I just want you to come with me and follow me everywhere and let's give the people what they came here for. And by the time I said that, it was literally like police and ambulances and stuff coming out of the field and trying to break up something that wasn't really that crazy like that, unquote. I love it. Adams got 9 of 10 passes for 66 yards and 1 touchdown. Most of that damage was done against other people, not Jalen Ramsey. However, he did beat Ramsey for that first touchdown. That's hilarious, right? I love the battle between wide receivers and cornerbacks when they happen like that. But hey, Davante Adams, how do you feel about this Packers team?
If the number one scoring defense can't stop you, who can?
Nobody. We stop ourselves. I think that's been proven at this point. They got a lot of guys who do things at a high level and some of the best at their position, but the way we come together is just different than anybody else.
Who can stop you if the number one defense can't? Who can stop you? And he goes, nobody. Gotta love the confidence, right? Look, you've got a Tampa Bay team coming back up into the cold. I don't know. We'll have our picks Wednesday night like we normally do on the radio show. But there's a lot of, can Tampa Bay play in the cold is the first question. But even if, let's say, Green Bay gets past it, then they got to play the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Big words there to say nobody can stop you. But, I get why he's saying it too. Excuse me, why I choke here. So I just love the confidence levels of these guys going into these games and, see what happens. So that was the first game there. Then you got the next game. The Buffalo Bills play the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about this a little bit already. And everybody thought this was going to be this giant high-scoring affair, right? It's a shootout. Nope, it wasn't. The first half, was kind of like a feeling out period between the two teams, missed field goals, things like that, but nothing major was going on. They were like trying to figure out what the defenses were doing. Both teams combined for 294 yards and converting just 4 of 12 third down attempts. Buffalo's defense started blitzing, which you hadn't seen from them before. You've seen that from the Baltimore Ravens a lot. But man, Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator for the Bills, really brought the heat in this game. Blitz rate of 41.5% according to Next Gen Stats. That was well above Buffalo's typical rate of 35%. And at one point in the in the second quarter, it was over 50%. Whereas Baltimore chose not to blitz the Bills offense at all, which they only blitzed 25%, which was interesting because, you know, you want Josh Allen to be kind of nimble. You don't want him to sit there and just be able to pick his teams out, pick his receivers out. Buffalo did a good job of running the football with both guys, both running backs back there. And the Ravens, as we talked about, their best runner was out of this game again, Mark Ingram. Lamar Jackson has a trouble throwing the football to receivers you've never heard of. Obviously, you got Hollywood Brown, a couple other guys there, but still it's the same. I mean, the defenses just did what the defenses need to do for the Bills to win this game. And that blitz program by Leslie Frazier kind of won the game because it kind of startled startled the Ravens. And it didn't allow the Ravens to get in any comfort on the offensive side and do anything on running their game. And it showed. It showed all game long. The Ravens just never looked comfortable. They didn't look like the team they were the last 6 weeks. The Bills got to them on defense, surprised them with a whole nother system. You know, Justin Tucker missed 2 more field goal attempts. He was 2 for 3. Of course, each of his first 2 that he missed were bounced off the uprights. Ravens receivers were dropping footballs left and right. They didn't make contested catches at all. Jackson wasn't running the football anywhere because of the blitzing style. Lamar Jackson gained 15 of his 34 total yards in 1 run. Even Edwards, the running back for the Ravens, gained 22 of his 42 yards on his first 2 carries to start the game. Dobbins was dropping passes when the blitz was coming. It's just the Ravens' offense just was hit by a deal. And then Jackson goes out due to a concussion. Let's not forget the snapping issues from the center that the Ravens had also. There's a few of those in there. And, just never got comfortable. Lots of miscues. The Ravens never got comfortable. And that's just off of the Ravens and what the Ravens did to them. They went into the game expecting the Bills to do a certain thing, and the Bills did the opposite and just caught them off guard. Miscues kill you in these playoff games, and scored only 3 points on the day. Now, like you said, Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals. Folks, you aren't beating the Bills with field goals. Even if you hit those 2, that's 9 points. You're still losing. The Ravens outgained Buffalo 340 to 220 yards. They dominated the time of possession, 35 minutes to 24 and some change. Converted more third downs than the Bills, and they only got 3 points out of it. 9, even if he made those field goals, it didn't really matter. It was an atrocious game by the offense of the Ravens. The Bills just made them uncomfortable, and it showed the whole time. This was not the Ravens team you thought you were getting after watching them 6 weeks before. Don't let forget, Taron Johnson had a 101-yard interception return for a touchdown. Fantastic play. Those long touchdown returns are just pick sixes are fantastic. Here's what Johnson had to say about that play.
Coach made a good call, cover 2 call, and I'm just reading the eyes of the quarterback. I have the seam in that coverage, and he took me to the backside, and all I did was cheat. He didn't see me, so the ball came to me, and I took it and made the play.
Simple. Made a defensive play. Dominated it. And then Josh Allen, a lot of doubters on this Bills team. I don't get why there's doubters on this Bills team. This is, Green Bay's been playing well the last couple of weeks that they've played as well. So I don't know. I mean, I declared the Bills as the number 1 team behind the Chiefs in the NFL. Green Bay has something to say about that, I think, right now. But they're definitely in the top 3. It's Chiefs, Bills, and Packers as the top 3 teams in the sport right now. And, I don't understand the haters and the doubters for them, but Josh Allen talked about that a little bit here too.
I see what people say on TV, and being the home team, we didn't have a chance. That's what a lot of people said. And credit to the Ravens, playing some of the hottest football in the league. That's a really good team we just played. And I'll say that over and over again. They're the real deal, especially on their whole team. But our guys played today with a hungry attitude, and you saw the results.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get why people are doubting this Bills team either. I have no idea what's happening with that. Don't understand it at all. We're going to make our picks on Wednesday night, of course, but my initial thing is that I think the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs this weekend, especially since we don't know what's going on with Mahomes. He's going to play, but how's he going to be effective with that foot and head injury now? So we're going to get into that here in a minute when we get to that game. Because then Sunday happened, right? And Kansas City Chiefs played the Cleveland Browns. First game of the day. Ended up being a 22-17 game. And here's what we learned about the Browns. Is they're good enough to win what they won, but they're not good enough to get over those humps with the bigger teams. Right? Kansas City came out, grabbed a 13-3 lead, and the Browns had no idea what hit them at that point. And I was surprised. I thought the Chiefs might come out a little sluggish because it's an Andy Reid team. They had a bye week. They sat a lot of players at the end of the week 17. I can tell you right now, normally like when the Steelers lost to the Cleveland Browns last week, I said maybe you need to play your players on that last week, even if it's for a quarter. And boy, I bet Kansas City is really happy they played Chad Henne in that week 17 game because they needed him in this one. Not that he did a lot, but he didn't hurt him either. The Browns did respond, though. Controversy in this play, right? Rashard Higgins, big play, dove toward the end zone, fumbled the ball back for a touchback. Huge play. A lot of controversy on this point, though. Let's listen to it. Credit goes to ESPN 850 WKNR on this play call.
Higgins to the right, Mayfield to throw, drop, look, fire, and it's caught wide open at the 5. It's Higgins, he fumbles into the end zone. Let's see what they're going to call. It's a touchback. He fumbled into the end zone and out of the end zone. Kevin.
I know a lot of people don't like that rule because where else can you fumble the ball and lose possession of it if it goes out of bounds? But I actually like this rule. Because the end zone is a sacred place. It's hard to get into that. If the defense can force you to fumble the football and have it go into the end zone, the defense gets credit for that in that situation. I don't have a problem with this rule at all. And even then, to stay on this side here, right? He reached out, and a lot of teams coach their players not to reach out. I know the Patriots do, because if you do fumble it becomes a touchback. And after the game, we're going to skip ahead here. After the game, Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, talked about this specific play and what Higgins did.
I will never, ever doubt Rashard Higgins' effort or our guys' effort. Our rule there is not to reach the ball out. It's first and goal, and he knows that. So, again, appreciate his effort. He battled like he always does. But we got to fight that urge because it's such a big loss if it does end up being a touchback.
He says it right there. We teach him that because of that rule right there. Heck of a defensive play. I mean, the defense should get credited for forcing that fumble out right there. I don't disagree with that rule at all. I know a lot of people do, but I don't. Baker Mayfield had an up-and-down game. He, of course, had the interception to open the second half. But he responded in 8 plays, 77-yard touchdown drive to take Kansas City lead in 19-10. And then he went down and did the 18-play, 75-yard drive to make it a 5-point game with plenty of time left on the fourth. Here's the thing, man. Kansas City, whatever you throw at Kansas City, they can rebound from and they can overcome. I talked about this in the regular season where the Kansas City would look like they're struggling against teams and then boom, fourth quarter comes along. Late in the fourth quarter, they go and they win the game. They just have this ability and the talent to overcome stuff and win games. And they needed it here. Chad Henne was forced into action because Patrick Mahomes got the concussion protocol. He had an injured leg earlier in the game, a foot, and then the concussion happened. Chad Henne threw a really bad interception, but he rebounded from it. It didn't cost him at the end. Of course, that fourth down play was fantastic. When he threw the ball to Tyreek Hill, they looked like they were going down. Even Tony Romo was saying they're not going to run a play. They ran a play, threw it to Tyreek Hill, 4th and 1. Got the ball, was able to go into victory formation. Balls are huge on this Kansas City team. Kansas City was winning this game with Mahomes. Chad Henne going in there, he did just enough to win it. So, but you got to look at the Browns. If you hold a team to 3 points in the second half and you can't come back and win this game, that's on you, Browns. That is on you. Obviously, a lot of big game playing. I'll give the Browns credit. They stayed in this game. Like when Higgins went down and fumbled that ball, that didn't faze the Browns. They stayed in the game and fought it. They went after. They played hard. They were able to knock Mahomes out of the game. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But finally, the Chiefs just couldn't break them. And then finally, that 4th and 1 play to Hill is what broke them, where they had to win it. Where they got the win. Broke them a little bit. Browns stayed in this game regardless of what the Chiefs threw at them. And that's what made the Browns exciting there. They just couldn't get over the top. And the reason why they couldn't get over the top is just the Chiefs can overcome whatever you throw at them. So that was a big deal there. Obviously, Mahomes got injured. Travis Kelce had something to say about that also, and what the Browns were doing after the injury.
It's a violent game. It is what it is, and we wear helmets for a reason, and that's because guys are flying around trying to take your head off. And it's you never want to say that someone purposely took somebody out the game, but they were flying around, and after the initial hit, they were fired up, saying that's what we do. So it was just, there was a lot of talk between me and their players, but for the most part, it was just in a competitive mindset, and because I do feel like those guys are good dudes, and I respect a lot of them for that, but especially Miles.
So Browns were, I'd be celebrating knocking Mahomes out also, because you assume when it's a close game like that and they're down by 5 at one point that you can win that game with Mahomes out, and they couldn't do it. It's on them. Andy Reid talks about Mahomes' injury.
Proud of the guys. I'll give you some injuries here. Obviously, Pat was injured and had to come out. He got hit in the back of the head and kind of knocked the wind out of him and everything else with it. So we took him out. He's doing great right now, which is a real positive as we looked at this, passed all the deals that he needed to pass. And so we'll see where it goes from here.
And then he also talks about his team, how they hung in there after Mahomes went down.
Nobody got down. I mean, there was nobody that was hanging their head or moping throughout the game. Things didn't always go the direction we wanted it to go, and the guys kept battling. And then I think that defensive stand at the end was huge. That's a good football team. Kevin's done a great job with that team, and their guys play hard, man. I mean, they've got a lot of talent. They play hard, and they've got good schemes.
And that's the thing with the Chiefs is they can rebound. They can, show anything that hits them. They don't blink. And that's what makes a good championship team as they go forward on that. So the Chiefs escaped through the Browns, and like I said, the Browns just couldn't get over that hump. And it's not their fault. I'm not blaming them because the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. So you expect it to happen. Then Sunday night, I'm sorry, really quick here. Then not Jason Garrett, Myles Garrett responded to kind of just the. That they weren't trying to knock out Mahomes, like Travis Kelce was kind of implying.
feel. I know some of the guys felt like that. I know Travis felt like that. And I'm cool with Travis. He's been a good guy. Hung out with a couple of times in the offseason. And I don't ever want him to feel like my guys, my team is out here trying to injure somebody or put them out the game. We're trying to put some bruises on you. We're trying to hurt you, but we're never trying to injure someone or take them out purposely. We're trying to play how it's supposed to be played, sportsmanship and integrity.
So he responded to the allegations. Look, it's football, right? I'd be happy too if I hit Mahomes and knocked him out, because you're assuming your offense is going to go down and score on there. So last game of the weekend, Tampa and the Saints, and whoo, what a doozy this one ended up being. And it's disappointing because all the rumors going into it is Drew Brees is retiring. Look, he's retiring. There's no doubt about it. I know they can be coy. We're going to get into that in a minute. But to have him go out with 3 interceptions, that's how good this Bucs defense was. But it was also disappointing to see that Drew Brees just can't make a throw anymore. He held on for 1 year too long. We'll get into that in just a minute here. But TB12 will play in his 9th conference championship game in the past 10 season, of course. But that Todd Bowles run defense for the Bucs is what won this game for them. Absolutely. The Bucs didn't allow the Saints to run the ball at all. They didn't let the Saints receivers catch anything easily. They kind of bullied them. They forced, like I said, the 3 turnovers. I think it was 4 total on there. And Drew Brees could not stretch the field. And that kept the game manageable for the Buccaneers. I think which team I was talking about. The Buccaneers, and kept them from scoring the football with those turnovers. And Todd Bowles' defense was dominant in this game, and that's what did it. They didn't even get a sack. The front 4 guys for the Buccaneers didn't even get a sack. But they were in the Drew Brees' face enough to hit him. And, Devin White for the Buccaneers was played out on a mission, man. He was just he was just out of his mind, running all over the place, hitting stuff. He had 11 tackles, tackle for a loss, an interception, a fumble recovery. Just amazing how he impacted that game and just kept the Saints just discombobulated in these turnovers. So, the other side of it is the last 2 times the Buccaneers played the Saints, a lot of turnovers on the Buccaneers side. Man, did they flip that script. No turnovers for the Tampa Bay that were costly. Saints had a bunch of turnovers as they went through that. It wasn't Tom Brady's best game by any stretch because the Saints defense is really good. And they made life tough on Tom Brady. He was only 18 of 33 for 199 yards, but he tossed the 2 touchdowns. Had a QB sneak there to ice the contest there at the end. Basically, it was a dink and dunk offense. Brady was more than happy to dump it, dink and dunk it. He hit Leonard Fournette a lot. Team high, 5 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. He was missing Gronk down the field when he was open. It was just he struggled with that game as it went on, but the defense kept him Tampa Bay in it, and defense will do that in this, especially in the playoffs time of year. So, Brady was able to make the plays as necessary when needed to, whereas Drew Brees was not. That's the other difference on the offensive side. So, the only time the Saints defense gave up touchdowns was after turnovers. And that's why if you follow my Cardinals podcast, I constantly preached on points after turnovers, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. You want the touchdown, but points after turnovers is how you win games. And this is a perfect example of it. The Saints gave up no touchdowns except for after the turnovers from Drew Brees and the offense. It was just a rough way for Drew Brees to go out. He's 42 years old. As I said, he couldn't throw it. The only time the Saints stretched the field was when they brought Jameis Winston in for that fake play, and he threw that long bomb down the field. Only time they stretched the field. Drew Brees was not able to do it. Of course, Winston had the 56-yard touchdown toss. Drew Brees finished 19 of 34 passing, 134 yards. That's 3.9 yards per attempt, folks. Michael Thomas wasn't out there. I was reading today he's going to need like 6 different surgeries, but he was nowhere to be found. Didn't record a single catch. 4 targets only. This offense, the whole point of this offense is that everybody's a threat. And nobody was a threat on Sunday. Nobody was a threat on that Saints offense. I hate to say it, man. It's Drew Brees is an icon. It just sucks. You hate to see him go, but he needs to go. It's time for him to go. Alvin Kamara, after the game, states the obvious when he's meeting with the press here. I love when people state the obvious, and he's not wrong here at all.
4 times. You can't. That's not a winning formula for any game. I don't care who you playing. It's gonna make it tough. We turned it over once. We was still in it. Turned it over twice, still in it. I mean, once you get to 3 and 4 turnovers, I mean, it's hard to combat that. I don't care who you are. So, we've done a good job of being pretty protective of the ball, and it was terrible timing to have those 4. Like I said, it sucked, but it is what it is.
I mean, Captain Obvious there, right? You don't win too many games when you have 4 turnovers, and the other team has none. So, as I said a minute ago, the Saints didn't throw them on the field. Drew Brees did not stretch the offense. He just can't do it. We talked about this earlier in this year. I think I talked about it last year on podcast, that Drew Brees couldn't stretch it down the field. But I know I talked about it this year, especially at the beginning of the game. And they had to bring Jameis Winston in for that 56-yard touchdown. Sean Payton was asked about the lack of downfield throws after the game.
We had some down the field throws, actually. Sometimes we're coming off to the underneath throws. We had a couple double spears. And look, we made some plays down the field. Obviously, not enough, but I don't think that was our issue. I thought we did a number of things well, and yet, we just didn't have enough snaps and gave them some pretty good field position.
Yeah, I don't know what game he was watching because he's either lying to us right there or he's just incompetent. So whatever. Saints are out of it. Really quick on Tampa Bay, Bruce Arians knew all along. Did he know the Bucs would be at this level with Tom Brady coming over?
Hey, Bruce, you mentioned that this isn't the same team that lost to New Orleans in November. Did you have any doubts along the way that this team would eventually show up by the end of the season?
No, I just saw the steady progress. We battled through some injuries, losing Vito, losing OJ and those guys, but and we battled through some injuries today. I mean, Sitchy breaks his arm on the first punt, so we're down to 3 linebackers. So guys stepped up at the end of the game. We're almost out of corners, but can't say enough about our guys. It's a very resilient team, and these guys work, and they have a great belief in each other.
Yeah, I mean, he has a faith that they were going to make it there and everything, which I don't expect him to do it. Now he's got the hard task of going to Green Bay in the cold weather. Good luck there. Of course, we'll have more on that on Wednesday night's radio show where we make our picks. So the big question on this game is a lot of changes coming. Is Drew Brees going to retire? Here's Brees' comments when he's asked that.
Drew, I hate to start with this, but is this your last game?
Well, I'll answer this question one time, and that is that I'm going to give myself an opportunity to think about the season, think about a lot of things, just like I did last year, and make a decision.
Folks, that decision's made. If he was unsure going into that game, the way that they were bottled up, the way he could not throw the football, I mean, it was painfully obvious to anybody watching. It's got to be even more so to him. Right? I mean, I don't know what else to say. Then Sean Payton talked about Drew Brees possibly retiring.
This is the end of the Drew Brees and Sean Payton era together. How do you encapsulate what he's meant to you?
Oh, listen, I think that's probably for another press conference. And I can't speak for Drew. Obviously, I would take up all of my time on your question tonight. And I think that I do think it's for another press conference. And Obviously, he's been tremendous for this team, this city. I could go on and on, but let's wait and answer that at the right time.
Yeah, he's so retired. It's not even funny. He basically, it's just like, look, we'll do it. We'll do it in a couple months, guys. Right? And that stuff. So that's the big thing is Saints. Saints offense is going to dramatically change. Can Jameis Winston run that offense? I think he has another year on that deal. Do they need to go find another quarterback? Taysom Hill is not the future in New Orleans as the main quarterback. He might be fine as a backup. So a lot of changes are coming for the Saints. They had a lot of opportunities. Sean Payton, let's face it, he gets a lot of credit for running that offense really well. They have one Super Bowl to show for it. One. Anybody else like that gets criticized for that. But yet he's considered, the guru of football. One Super Bowl win. So it is what it is. So in the picks this week, everybody had, on the host side, Adam, Kaler, Izzy, and me all had Green Bay winning, so we all got that one right. We all had Kansas City winning over Cleveland. We got that right. We all had New Orleans beating Tampa Bay. All of us. We all lost that one. Woohoo! And we split on Baltimore and Buffalo. Of course, Izzy and I had Buffalo Bills winning this one. We're the two smart ones of the group. We're the ones still working on the radio show, right? So we're the smart ones. And so the Bills get that win. So Kaler and Adam, of course, had Baltimore on that one. So 3-1 for me and Izzy this week, and 2-2 for Adam and Kaler this week on their deal. Now the All Access crew, whole nother situation. This is exciting. I started tallying up. I'm getting the weeks all tallied up for everybody. I'm going to present them here next week because after the championship game, might somebody close enough to steal a victory at the end. All right, it's exciting. But the All Access crew, intern, got Green Bay right. Guys, you got to listen to us, man. Her and Miguel both had Green Bay winning. Guys got to listen, man. The Ravens were not winning that football game. You guys both picked the Ravens. You lost that one. Miguel had the Browns beating the Chiefs. Intern had the Chiefs winning that one. So obviously Miguel lost that one with the Browns also. And he also had the Saints winning. Yee. Tough weekend. 1-3 for Miguel. Hey, man, sometimes it happens. I went 0-4 in our first college football one, so I get you, buddy. And then, of course, Intern had Tampa Bay winning that game. So she went 3-1 on the weekend. So what a week of picks. We're wrapping them up here. We'll have to figure out something else to pick next year and next time and everything, because there's a lot of stuff going on that we can go for. I mean, hockey's going, like we said, NBA. We did all that in the first hour. I appreciate everybody tuning in Facebook Live or on Twitter Live. It's Periscope when it's live on here. I appreciate everybody that listens to this on the podcast system. I break them down into the 2-hour segments for you. We'll see if we keep going 2 hours after the football season. I know now there's just so much information. We might switch it back down to the hour and a half. I'd like to have the last hour just for NFL football. But of course, guys, I'll be back Wednesday night, 1580 The Fanatic. Listen on the app, 1580thefanatic.com, or of course, live on the radio, 1580, 99.3, 95.9. And always join me on the text line, and we'll be back on Friday again. Get all the news in and preview the divisional games this weekend, because I might have a couple of doozies of a pick on Wednesday night. You guys have to tune in and see. Of course, I'm Stephen McCollum, the Main Event Podcast at SMAC500 at the Main Event Pod. Follow me for show notes on there. And then my personal at SMAC500. I put a lot of stuff out. Love interacting with everybody. We'll see y'all Wednesday night.